Let's try this again. I know, we're trying to fix it. Have patience. Hey, I can see you now.
Right, cool, man.
Shit. What time is it out there, man?
It's like 9:30 in the evening, so like 9:30 p.m. now. Well, no,
Oh,
no, 9 p.m. Yeah.
oh, cool. That's not bad.
So I think you're like 8 hours behind. You're
Yeah,
like behind us over there.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool, man. So yeah, no, I just wanted to kind of really kind of run by you. Kind of people keep on asking me like, what's the book about? You know,
Um,
and I can never. I'm just like it's medicine. That's it.
yeah.
You know
Yeah,
what I mean? So
I don't know. For me, it's a combination of different things. It's not just one story, one. It's like almost like three different books kind of put together. What I really liked about it is it's almost like a kind of like a coffee table book where you can just pick it up, read a page, and like that's great for a day, or you can read the whole thing. It's like a almost like a daily inspiration kind of thing, but it's a huge book. Like I really liked it a lot, and it's all stuff I've written and said, so it was still really cool how it's all put together.
because that's the thing. Like when I was kind of like looking through all of your quotes, yourself and John's quotes, it was kind of like everything kind of slotted in. I put it all together in like a really random way,
Yeah,
but then it all kind of made sense. Like it was all kind of the same kind of. I mean, it was kind of balanced. It was more
yeah,
transparent. Like it was like rather than just being, some people have like motivational books
uh,
where it's like all kind of one thing where it's like they're just saying the same message in different ways.
yeah, yeah,
It seemed like when I was going through stuff, it was just like you could see it was kind of real emotion. It was just natural. It was just like maybe a day where I don't know, you felt a certain way about something
yeah,
and you just decided to write it down.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it really works well the way you put it all together.
What does soul mean? Like what does soul mean to you?
What does it mean to me? I think just being true to yourself. I think more than anything um, is what it's about. Being kind of exposing the good and the bad and everything. I think a lot of times, especially people in the spotlight, it's like they only want to put on the good or show the good, and not you don't see it behind the scenes. You don't see everything they go through and deal with and think about. It's almost like a highlight video. That's why, like for me, my first highlight video, I wanted to show me getting the shit kicked out of me. Because I wanted to show both. I wanted it to be honest. I wanted it to give not give people such a skewed perception of fighters or people, and I think that's something that this book really shows a lot of. It's like it's deep. It's what we're made of, and for me, like that's what soul means.
It's like the whole concept of struggle and how do you manage yourself when times are tough or hard.
Yeah, yeah, well,
And I suppose
yeah.
is it
Well, I mean that.
for you, is it like yeah, go on.
I was just saying like that for me that's what fighting is all about. It goes across every area of your life. It's a metaphor for everything that's in life. And I think that's what's great about fighting and martial arts is it really kind of brings people to that level. It's not just about being in the ring, you know what I mean? It's about everything you do outside the ring, everything, all the training, all the ups and downs, all the life stuff. It really it shows you so much about things you need to know just in every aspect of life. That's what I think is so beautiful about martial arts and fighting.
So is it like because obviously some people show they express creativity through other kind of outlets. Is it kind of for you, is it like, I mean, uh maintaining the creativity through the struggle, so keeping that optimism to be creative no matter what kind of comes at you in that given moment?
Yeah, I mean for sure. I think again, I think fighting just kind of magnifies all those kinds of things, like obviously in every area of life you're going to have struggles, you're going to have obstacles and hurdles and opponents, whether it's real or imagined. So fighting is something that just kind of quantifies that. It's like you actually do have a person in front of you that's trying to kill you, as opposed to a situation or something else outside of that. But that crosses all barriers in life. Is like if it and I think that's what attracts people to fighting is you can understand it. You know what I'm saying? Even if you've never been in the ring, you understand what it's like to win, to lose, to have to overcome, and that it just shows people what's possible. When you don't give up.
How did the whole relationship with you and John start? Johnny Bang Riley.
Just randomly, really. I Yeah, it's crazy. I'd seen his stuff over the years. Always really loved all of his work, and just through kind of a mutual friend, he kind of, well, he didn't put us in touch. He was kind of like the middleman between the conversation. He was like, hey, he kind of told Johnny about me and me about Johnny, and kind of was kind of this middleman in this conversation. And he was like, yeah, Johnny wants to do a piece with you. And, I was like, yeah, cool, whatever, I'm down for whatever. But I don't think I was coming across as like I was taking him seriously, just because the way I am, I'm just relaxed and like,
Mm.
whatever. Um, so finally, like, we actually got in touch with each other and we got on like a Skype call and we just hit it off, man. And, I think we're both, mutual fans of each other and kind of on that same wavelength about our outlook on life and our struggles and all that kind of stuff. And he kind of just hit me with some stuff he had in mind about a film, and we just started going from there. And it kind of just all worked, man. And it seemed kind of crazy because he was like this guy I kind of viewed from the outside, and then all of a sudden, we're talking and doing this thing. Even when we were filming it was a very surreal experience.
Mm.
Because the whole thing was about like a poem that I had written, and it was about my life and all these things. And as we were filming it, I was asking Johnny for like, should we do it like this or should we do it like that? He's like, dude, this is you, man. This is your thing. Like, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So that was such a strange thing to realize that this was really my thing, even though like it, he was doing it or we were doing it. It was really just about me and everything I went through to get started and on the path that I'm on. And yeah, it was a trip, man. And it was so beautiful, man. Like the way it was filmed and everything just really exceeded all my expectations, because you never know how something like that's going to turn out, because there's so many
Mm.
pieces that have to be done correctly. It's not just about one person doing their job right. It's all these pieces have to come together, and it did. It was really great.
I mean, like, when is that even when I work with John, it kind of seems like everything is like incidental.
Yeah.
It's like even when we edit, it's like we put all this stuff together, and I'm like, "Are you sure? Like, are you sure this is gonna work?" And he's just like, "Yeah, man, cool."
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it comes together, and it has its own flow. But I think it's like it trains you to think outside of. I suppose we our minds are trained to kind of think uh, based on like what's been advertised or marketed towards us. Like
Yeah.
like a structure of a film is this.
Yeah. Right.
It should be yeah like this, and then like with him it's just like do what you feel like what you said, and I'm just like is it okay? And he's like, do you like it? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's something I'm kind of struggling right now with writing, because I'm working on my second book right now, and there's part of me that wants to or feels the pressure to write in a certain way or to be more articulate and all these things, but at the same time, I want it to be me in the way that I speak. And I like when people read it, I want them to understand like I wrote this. Nobody else wrote this. I did this. Like I don't want to edit it so much to where it doesn't sound like me anymore, like it's a different person. So it's tough to find that balance of being true to yourself, yet still wanting to be better and improve. And that's the same for me in fighting and stuff too. It's like, yeah, there's stuff I want to do and be better, yet I still need to express myself in an honest way. And that can be a little tricky sometimes when you're working on things.
No, for sure. I think yeah, I think that's like with the book it was kind of like it was like pockets of info that just kind of just put together in a random way. And as I said, it just found its flow. But it's kind of, I think it's scary sometimes because you kind of like, um, you go through this thing of like, what will people think? Like, how will people respond to it?
Yeah.
Like, is it safe?
Yeah.
And I think everybody can truly express who they are if they get all of these things out of the way. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's kind of, and I think for me, like just reading through it, like the flow of the book and stuff, it was kind of like it is literally that. It's like revealing. You go through a kind of thing of it's like revealing you, you know,
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah,
rather than just
I
surface.
think that the more you just stay true to yourself, it doesn't matter if it's structured in the way a book or a movie or a fight is supposed to be. Like, just there is no way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be real. It's supposed to be honest. And even if it's not technically correct or whatever, I think people can feel that and see it, and people enjoy realness much more than edited perfection.
So, I don't know, like I don't know how to do this like Q&A thing. I don't know if
Me
this
neither. That's what I'm saying, man. Just whatever. Just do
whatever it
you.
is. Like that's the thing. I didn't really even discuss a Q&A with you. I just asked if it was all right to do like a video.
Yeah, but these,
Then I woke up this morning. I was
yeah,
like Q&A.
that's the best, man. It's real.
Yeah. I don't know if there's anybody watching or there's anybody out there. If they got any questions to ask about anything, man, feel free to fire away
Oh,
and let us know.
can you see the ones that are coming up, or does it only show on mine?
Oh no, I can see
Oh,
now.
okay, okay.
I can see
All right,
now.
cool.
Like, because they're coming through like quick, so I don't
Yeah.
know how to like. You
If
can't.
you can actually
You have to.
press it and scroll back. I mean, I don't know if you can on yours, but
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Snap.
So you can like grab it
Oh, okay.
and scroll down.
I think that's the key thing though is like just to start
Yeah.
because people
Yeah.
kind of you can procrastinate all you want and be like, yeah, this is the format a book needs to take
Yeah.
or this needs to. And I was like, it kind of dawned on me. I was like, yo, like this is mad. Like it's a book, you know. It's kind of you don't realize until like the proof is in the pudding. You get it in your hand
Yeah.
or whatever, and you're like, wow, I've come to this now, and it's
Yeah.
like, but that's only through actually application, like doing it in the first place.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. It's like
And then
you
it's
just
so
gotta
much
gotta
harder.
start moving.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, there's a guy, Gary Lynch. Did you guys go through a publisher or did you guys self-publish trying to come up with how I'd like to do it? Any insight would be helpful. You went through you for your books as well. You just self-published, right? Innit?
Yeah, yeah. So, well, that's what's, I mean, great about nowadays with the digital world and everything. It makes things like that a lot easier. A lot of stuff like that you can really do on your own, and it's often better to do on your own. Yeah. So for me, I found a place that you just send your book to, and they print it up to you, ship it to you, and then you can do all the distribution and that kind of thing. It's not like I have to get it edited or screened by anyone. It's all just me doing it, and it puts everything in my hands. So that's how I did my book.
Mm-mm. It's the same thing, man. I think obviously with you, you're like a lot more meticulous than me, like when it comes to details. Because like I'm like, yeah, it's done, and I'm sending it to you, and you're like, nope,
Uh,
nope, nope.
yeah, man. I'm like what's tough for me is like seeing things, and it's so much stuff too that most people wouldn't even care about. So it's like, should I really change this? I'm like, yeah, because it's gonna bug me knowing that
Yeah.
it's in there. Like, I don't care if nobody else knows or would even see it, but I'll see it and I'll know it. The same thing with like my artwork. Like, that's why I can't have any of my own pieces hanging up, because I'll see everything that's wrong with it, or everything that I want to change, and it'll never be finished. I'm just a perfectionist when it comes to my work. There is a point when you do have to just let go, because you could edit something for
Mm.
eternity and never it'll never get out there. So, it's finding that balance between wanting perfection, which you can't ever achieve, and not just like throwing something out there just because it's done.
What? Um, Guy asked you, what's the best thing to do after your leg gets caught?
Talking about fighting, don't let it get caught. That's it's so difficult to answer a lot of questions like that because it's like asking like what's the best thing to eat? Well, what's your purpose? What are you trying to do?
Mm,
It's there's so many answers. There's no best anything. There's what's right in that moment, what's right for you. Um, and there's so many there's an infinite number of options. I don't think there's a best anything.
mm. Eddie Basolo is hi Eddie. Have you learned life lessons through the process of writing as you have through, or have you so I think it means have you learned life lessons through the process of writing as you have through fighting and training?
Um, I'm sure that I have, but like I don't know, like so many kind of lessons I've learned in fighting have applied into the writing. I think if I hadn't fought, I would have learned them through writing. Um, a lot of it's like we were just saying earlier, is being honest, expressing yourself honestly, and not trying to, almost, so often we just try to be like this perfect thing, not realizing that the realer we are, the better you'll come across. And, being true to yourself and not trying to, steer yourself because of pressure of how other things are or what people like in a certain area. You don't know if people are going to love who you are as a natural person. You're trying to change yourself to be like other people when who you are is what people love and what will come across genuinely. Even if it's to a smaller group, at least you're being real with who you are. And when you look back at this, whether it's a fight or a book or anything, you can have comfort in the fact that you didn't change who you were because of outside pressures.
Word. Um, Kevin, how did you get your start in martial arts, and when did you realize you wanted to make this your profession? What do you think you would be doing in life if not fighting?
Basically every other thing that I'm doing right now. Hopefully. Well, I mean, really, fighting is what opened my eyes and my mind up to a lot of the other things I do in life and steered me in the right direction. Like fighting for me is just a tool that has allowed me to, you know, be better at everything that I do. It's crossed all areas of my life. What was the question? How did I get into it?
Yeah, it was, how did you start in martial arts, and when did you realize you wanted to make this your profession? What do you think you would be doing in life if not fighting?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a really long kind of process. I'd always loved boxing growing up. Loved martial arts, movies, Bruce Lee, and stuff like that. Um, Kind of played around with the idea of boxing one day because I always loved it, and but I really love martial arts too, and I never saw any real fighting, any real martial arts fighting. There's karate, there's all these, point sparring kind of things. Obviously at that time, kind of MMA was starting and everything. But one day in '94, I saw Muay Thai, and that just blew my mind. And I just knew if I was ever going to do any kind of fighting, that was going to be it. Um, it was everything to me. It just really resonated in my soul and it, like lit a fire in me. But yeah, I didn't start till I was 23. Um, but from the day I started, not to say this is what I wanted to do as a profession, because I didn't even know like a profession was possible at that time. It was really just I want to put everything I am into this thing, not knowing where it would go or end up or anything like that. I didn't even know it was possible back then. It wasn't like it is today where you can view these people and view kind of the stages and careers and that kind of thing. This was before YouTube. This was before everything. It was very underground at that time. People didn't know about it, so it wasn't. I didn't even know what was possible. It was just for the pure love of the sport, and which I think is something that's missing a lot these days. Is people doing this all for the wrong reasons. They're doing it for Instagram, or they're doing it to be popular. Like it's taken a lot of the purity out of the sport with the growth of it. As good as it is that it is bigger and there's more exposure and more opportunities, it's taken away a lot of those things as well. But that kind of comes just with the territory and anything growing popularity is you got to take the good with the bad.
You still there?
Huh? That was it.
Is it? Yeah. Okay. Cool. No, I
That
think
was the
some
end.
message came through
I'll
to my
say the
phone. So,
end.
um, Eddie, are socks or sandals?
He said what?
I don't know.
Socks.
I don't know what that means.
Both.
um,
I hate wearing
cool.
shoes because my feet get claustrophobic.
But you can live. I think you can live that sandal life in Cali. I don't think we can really live it
Yeah,
in
more
London. It's
so for
not.
sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I tried to do it in New York and it wasn't really working out for me.
All right, cool, man. Was there anything else there? Somebody's asking, how many amateur fights did you have?
Um, I don't know, like 13 or something. I wish I could have had like a couple hundred, but I was at a stage where there was no other amateurs for me to fight. Basically, I ran out of opponents, and it gotten to a point when I just had to go pro. I tell people that you should stay amateur as long as possible, as long as you're still growing, as long as there's still competition. Um, because once you go pro, there's no turning back. Um, it's like going to school. There's so much you need to learn that you can only learn in the ring, that you can only learn by fighting, and as you're an amateur, that's the kind of learning process. That's practice almost. So as much as people want to be in a rush to go pro, it's kind of a rude awakening, particularly if you're doing it for the wrong reasons. Like, oh, once I go pro, I'm gonna make money. And like, you ain't making money. There is no money to be made. There's like the 1% of the 1%. Yeah, you can make a little bit, but that shouldn't be your motivation. Your motivation should be as good as a fighter as possible and to progress as much as possible. And the more you can do that in the safer training amateur environment, the better you will be when you do ultimately go pro. And like I said, there's no going back. You don't want to skip to the end of the line before you've learned all the steps and progressed in the way you need to, because you're gonna have a bad day at the office.
We've got another guy who's asking advice for an amateur. Should you keep on doing fights knowing that you love it, but you keep losing all of them by decision?
Well, that's always a tough thing to say because so many times in life, the results don't necessarily give you the answers to whether or not you should keep doing something. That shouldn't be the whole kind of motivation. Like your motivation should be outside of just the results, because the results can give you false information. Like just winning fights doesn't necessarily mean you're getting better. It doesn't necessarily mean you're progressing if you're not fighting quality opposition. You can win all the fights you want, but if you're going around just beating up like little kids, what is that really doing for you? At the same time, if you're testing yourself the way you need to, maybe you're losing every fight, but you're also probably progressing a lot and learning a lot and growing a lot. All things in life are about finding that balance. It's about testing yourself and growing, but not letting it deter you from where it is you're trying to head. And the problem is only you can say what that is, and whether it's worth it or not. Or I can't tell you just because you're losing is you're doing something incorrectly. I don't know. I don't know you. I don't know the situation. There's too many other factors that are involved, that unless I knew the situation, I couldn't really give you that kind of advice. But when it all comes down to it, only the individual can dictate whether or not this is what they should be doing. What's your motivation? What's your purpose? What are your options? There's so many factors that come into that, and you have to decide that and figure that out. And for everybody, it's different. For everybody, it's different. I can't tell you to do what I did because you won't get to where I got just because you did things the way I did. You're a different person. It's a different time. There's so many other factors that come into it. So that's a tricky thing about being successful or going after dreams and that kind of thing is there's no blueprint for how to do it other than find out what you want and never give up. I mean, that's really the only blueprint there is to being successful. But there's no guarantees in anything you do in life, and you have to always carve your own path. So it's tricky.
I think it's like there's a kind of I was watching something the other day or something, and it was like the guy was talking about the misconception that there's this comfort kind of zone area of comfort exists, like because
Mhm.
effectively when you're born you're like you're on your back and everybody around you's walking and you're like,
Yeah,
okay, what do I do? Then you learn how to crawl and you start walking, and then but life is consistently kind of, I suppose it depends how you decide to view it, but
yeah,
things, I think as soon as you allow things to view things from the standpoint that, I mean, it's happened, things happen to you for you to grow you rather than to you. I think your
yeah,
perspective on application to anything in life changes. It just becomes, all right, cool. This is part and parcel. I'm gonna feel low. I'm gonna feel kind of beat down occasionally, whatever. But it's just I think your willpower to keep on going and not give up.
yeah.
But I think there is a misconception that things get a lot more comfortable the more successful you are, or whatever it might be.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like more than often, it gets harder, not easier. I think the other thing that's tough too is just because you're struggling, or it's like you can view me and say, well, he lost this and went through this. Like that doesn't necessarily mean you have to do that. And just because you're doing it means you're doing it correctly. It doesn't. One thing doesn't equal the other. It's so individual. Everything is. There's no real path. I think the key is to stay focused on what your goal is and to constantly be adjusting your sails basically to get there. Whether it's wins and losses and good things and bad things, no matter what the circumstances are, you can still progress and get better and kind of guide yourself in the correct way. And again, the results don't necessarily equate to success. Just good and bad both. Don't necessarily mean you're going the right way or the wrong way. Um, and that's kind of what makes things really hard to do. I think just always be looking to improve, always be looking to get better, always be setting your sights on the top of the heat. As far as fighting goes, like don't view the best people in the country or the best people in your gym. You want to view the best people of all time. Like that should be your comparison. That should be the bar that you're trying to set. That's what I did. It wasn't like as soon as I got better than everyone in this country, like, oh, now I'm the best. Like you're still terrible compared to the rest of the world. You're still terrible compared to the greatest people to ever have done this. So as long as you keep your sights set on the mountaintop, you're gonna progress and get there, and you'll find a way to do it. You still at the same time need to um, kind of appreciate and understand the progress you have made. I think that's what's difficult for me is sometimes I'm too far on the other end. It's not not appreciating the things that I have accomplished or not feeling like I have done anything. Um, it's there's always two sides to everything, and both sides can be equally detrimental. Being overly confident can be just as bad as being underconfident. It's finding a way to make up for where you lack and to constantly be progressing um, and pushing yourself.
I think someone said, how long ago, at what age did you guys become quote unquote like conscious and self-aware?
I don't think that. I think everything is a constant, ongoing battle. It's not. There's no like point where you're like, oh, from this stage on, I'm healthy, or this stage on, I'm conscious, or this stage on, I'm a good fighter. It's a never-ending journey that you're always gonna have on. You're always gonna be on this path. There's never a point when you've made it anywhere because as soon as you stop, you decline. Um,
Yeah,
as far as fighting goes, it's like as soon as I've gotten really good at a technique, as soon as I stop practicing it, I'm gonna lose it to a degree. Um, that's why it's impossible just to. You can't be great at everything. It's there's too much. There's too many things, and too many things that need upkeep, and there's too many things you have to continually do over and over and over and over again. That's something about fighting that taught me was no matter what, you need to maintain your basics and your foundation, and that's really the only thing that you need to make sure that's always strong and good is your foundation because everything else is like these branches of a tree. It's like you have to have your core and your trunk solid. If that's solid, you can start expanding and going out to the edges, but you have to keep going back to your base and your roots because if those aren't strong, you can build all you want on the outside and it's going
yeah.
and that goes throughout all aspects of life is your foundation always needs to be solid, and from that point, you can continually build. But it's not like once you have that foundation, it's just there forever. It's something you have to keep up and constantly make strong.
I think there's constant like is I think you're constantly. I mean, it's like the concept of being conscious or self-aware is you constantly. Me personally, I constantly get drawn out like of it, and I'm like, oh, should I go and do this? And then I look at the fallout because I have responsibilities.
Yeah,
I think when I weigh up, I'm like, okay, I have a responsibility to do this. That outweighs the temptation to do whatever it might be, at that given moment. So I think I think once you got those foundations, you realize the knockback when you slip up or you fall off,
yeah,
and you realize how what it takes to get back to that point again. So I think it depends on your character. Like if you're one of those people that kind of wants to keep on building more,
yeah,
or because I think it becomes like I don't know, man. It becomes not like an addiction to like
hmm
to building, but for me, it's I mean it's kind of become like the only way I view life now. And I never used to view life in this way, but now it's like, okay, I want to do this, I want to do that. It's like
yeah,
because I think it's very easy to get swept up into the I think what is mainstream now is mediocrity. Like
yeah,
things that are mediocre now are celebrated. There's
yeah,
not as many figures out there that represent excellence. It's like
yeah,
so it's very easy to fall into that kind of pool of people that is just I wouldn't say I don't want to be disrespectful to anybody to say just existing, but not really pushing the boundaries, not really
yeah,
showing other people what you can do, where you can go. And I think once you see the response, like as far as how not that you're doing things for people necessarily, because you're doing. I think ultimately, even if you do things for somebody, you're doing it for yourself. But I think when you see the response and people are like, "Wow, that really inspired me to do this," it feels like you kind of carry a responsibility to live your life in that way of representing kind of consciousness or whatever, you know.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
I think that's how I kind of view it. Let's go on. There's what do you do? Someone says, what do you do when there is no people to train with in your competing team due to low amount of what's it? It's been this. I'm trying to work out what it says. What do you do when there is no people to train with in your competing team due to low amount of members? It been this way for months.
Yeah, well, I think understanding that there's always something you can do to progress and be better. Even if you're in a body cast laying in bed, you know what I'm saying? I think far too often we'll take like a struggle like that or a situation and we'll allow it to deter us from anything progressing in any way because like, oh, I don't have this, or I don't have these people to train with, or I don't have this great gym to work out at. It's like, so there's still plenty you can do. There's always work that can be done. You can always be better in so many areas. There's so many pieces that go into this that you can't let one limitation deter you from progressing in life. I always equate that to times I've been injured. It's like when I blew my knee out. A lot of times when this happens, people use that to just kind of give up for a while because they're like, oh, I'm injured. I can't do anything. I'll just lay in bed and get fat and eat whatever I want. For me, I was in the gym the week of my surgery. I was back in the gym, standing on one leg, hitting the bag, doing other exercises. Everything I could that wasn't involved with using my leg, I still did. Mentally working on things, watching fights. There's so much you can do outside of training, outside of having someone there with you. For years back in the day, I didn't have anybody to train with. All the fighters had left the gym. All the trainers had left the gym. I was literally in the gym every day by myself, hitting the bag, and that's all I had to work with. So your excuses are always invalid because there's always something that can be done, and there's always people who have the same excuses that you do that still find a way to make it work. I think the key is to know that, to not rely on your limitations and not use them as excuses to quit or to not be good enough or not to be where you want to be. Like we all have limitations. We all have excuses that we could just use as a hindrance. Most people do, and then there's ones that don't. And the difficult thing, or the thing that skews people's perspective, is the fact that they see people in the spotlight, they see successful people, and they falsely assume they don't go through those kinds of things, or maybe they don't go through them anymore. Me and Eddie kind of touched on this a lot over the seminars we were doing. Is that things don't get easier, they get harder. You just find ways to work around it. You have a better understanding of it. If I sat here and talked to everybody about all the things I go through and deal with and the hurdles I have today, in the past, in the future, right now, it would blow a lot of people's minds. Because they don't see it and they don't hear about it, and that's why for me it's always important to be vocal and express the ups and downs and the things that I do go through. Not just talking about the victories and the limelight and that kind of thing, because I go through all this. I go through it right now.
Well, guys, he's asked this question a few times. In your opinion, do you think the hands down style is effective in Muay Thai?
It's effective if it works for you. And that's the answer for everything. Is this effective? It's effective if it's working. If it's not working, it's not effective. That's your answer to everything. Do I think it's smart and that you should go about it that way? No. I think what confuses a lot of people is a lot of these guys with that style that's not that's very unique is they didn't more than likely didn't learn to fight that way. They developed that over time, over having a good foundation, and realizing what works for them and what doesn't work. You know, nobody goes into the gym day one and fights like Mayweather or like Anderson Silva or guys like that who are very elusive and you know, that hands down style is you know, it's that comes from years and years and years and years of developing and understanding the minute fractions of an inch of things that you have to understand to be able to do that. You know, it's not, you don't just start that way. And that's, again, when it comes down to having a strong foundation in everything. From that point, you can develop into trickier things or things that, you know, are very unique like that. You know, without a solid foundation, you're never going to get to that point. So you shouldn't start there. You know, that might be somewhere you want to go one day, but you still need to start at the ground and work your way up.
But I think Eddie said to me, how can you relate to Kevin's journey with your daily challenges and adjustments? Because I understand you're a man of many trades as well. I think, to be honest, like, it's like, even if I read through the book, it's a reflection of, like I said, I think fighting is
All right, Benny,
like it could be any.
this is gonna boot us off in like 20 seconds, but we can start it again. It has like a limited time thing.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, yeah. Um, so yeah,
Should we just
it's gonna do it like right now.